The message arrived at 2:17 a.m., and that alone should have ended everything. Nathan Brooks had not even finished typing his question when the reply appeared, as if the house itself had been waiting. The listing had been online for less than an hour, and the seller answered with a calm certainty that felt almost personal. "Yes," the message read, "and timing matters more than you think." Nathan stared at the screen in his dark apartment in Aurora, Colorado, feeling that strange mix of curiosity and relief that comes when something rare appears just as hope is starting to wear thin. He had spent months searching for a way out of renting, watching prices climb while his own life felt stuck in neutral. He was 41, worked in IT support for a regional healthcare network, and had done everything responsibly. No gambling, no reckless spending, no shortcuts. Yet ownership always seemed one step out of reach. The house in the listing did not look like an escape. It looked like an answer. The property sat in a quiet development just outside the city, the kind of place people moved to when they were done chasing noise. 3 bedrooms, a finished attic, a small backyard that bordered open land. The photos were not flashy, which made them feel honest. The description did not mention urgency or bidding wars. Instead, it talked about space, calm, and continuity, ending with a sentence that felt oddly deliberate. Some homes wait for the right person longer than people realize. Nathan told himself he was reading too much into it, yet he read that line again before responding. The seller introduced herself as Laura Mitchell, explained that the home belonged to her father, who had moved into assisted living after a medical emergency, and that she needed to sell quietly to cover long-term care costs. There was no sales pressure in her tone, only precision. Every question Nathan asked was answered completely, often with details he had not requested, as if she already understood what mattered to him. Over the next several days, the conversation deepened in a way that felt natural rather than transactional. Laura explained why she was not using an agent, why she preferred email over phone calls, why she believed the house should go to someone who planned to stay rather than flip it. She never rushed Nathan, never pushed him toward a decision, and that patience lowered his guard more effectively than urgency ever could. She sent documents gradually, not all at once, each one reinforcing the last. Property tax records matched public databases. Utility bills showed normal usage. The deed copy listed a name that aligned with county records. Nathan even drove by the house one evening after work and saw nothing that contradicted what he had been told. The place looked lived in, but empty, as if paused rather than abandoned. That night, Laura messaged him without being prompted and said, "Most people don't check. You did. That tells me something." That sentence stayed with him longer than it should have. Nathan began imagining routines instead of transactions. Morning coffee in the kitchen shown in the photos, quiet weekends without upstairs neighbors, a sense of permanence he had not felt in over a decade. When Laura finally mentioned a deposit, it did not feel like a demand. She explained that because of ongoing paperwork related to her father's care, the sale could not be finalized immediately, but a private occupancy agreement would allow Nathan to secure the house while everything was processed. The deposit was not small, but it was framed as protection for both sides, fully refundable, held temporarily, and documented in writing. The contract she sent was not perfect, but it was plausible, and its imperfections made it feel less manufactured. Nathan reviewed it late at night, telling himself he would decide in the morning, yet by sunrise he already knew what he was going to do. When he sent the money, the confirmation arrived instantly. Laura thanked him and said she would send access details within 2 days. For the first time in years, Nathan allowed himself to believe that his constant waiting had finally ended. He started planning quietly, telling no one, not because he was hiding it, but because he wanted certainty before celebration. The following day passed without issue, but the second day felt different. Laura's replies became shorter. The warmth remained,
But something else entered the conversation, a subtle distance that Nathan could not quite explain. She asked for a copy of his identification to finalize internal records. It felt reasonable. He hesitated briefly, then sent it, telling himself that trust had to go both ways. That was the last normal interaction. The next morning, Nathan woke to silence. No response, no explanation. He tried calling the number for the first time and heard a message stating it was no longer in service. He checked the listing. It was gone. His stomach tightened in a way that logic could not immediately soothe. He drove to the house again, this time pulling into the driveway. The front door opened before he knocked. A woman stood there, confused, holding a mug, clearly not someone in assisted living. She listened politely as Nathan explained, then shook her head slowly and said the house had never been for sale. Her husband joined them and confirmed the same thing, adding quietly that Nathan was not the first person to show up with documents and questions. The house, they explained, had become a frequent stop for confused strangers over the past year. The realization did not come at all at once. It unfolded in layers, each heavier than the last. The money had already moved. The bank could not reverse it. The documents were expertly assembled, but ultimately meaningless. The identity Laura had used belonged to a real woman whose information had been stolen months earlier. What made the scam devastating was not its complexity, but its restraint. Nothing had been rushed. Nothing had felt aggressive. The hook had never been the deal itself. It had been the idea that the house was waiting, that timing mattered more than they thought, and that patience at last was about to pay off. The house would remain real, the promise would not, and the hook would work again.